just has the right amount of horsepower and torque. You get a nice pull when you're in second gear. This may be the longest drive it's been on. It is. Welcome to an episode of Jay Leno's Garage. You hear about barn finds and automotive archaeology. It doesn't get any rarer than this. This was an amazing find. Before I tell you what it is, just take a look at it. Now, this was designed back in 1958. It was meant to run at Le Mans. It was lost. It was designed by a legendary man named Strother MacMinn. Now, Strother was a friend of mine. When I got this garage 30 some odd years ago, he would come around and he'd kind of poke and help me out. Hey, you know, this and so. I never realized who he was or how important he was. He was one of the great designers. He taught most of the newer generation of great designers. By new, I mean from 1950 on, because Strother MacMinn was born in 1918. And he used to like to drive my 8-liter Bentley, and we would go to lunch, and just a classy gentleman. You know, you drop a famous name, and you go, "Oh, yes, well, we had lunch." "Oh, really?" And he just knew everybody. He taught at the Design Center, the Art Center in Pasadena. He taught automotive design. I mean, all the great designers know him, loved him. He was just a wonderful, wonderful man. He was a protege of a man named Frank Hershey, who was a designer from probably the decade before Strother, Duesenbergs and Pierce Arrows and all that. It was just a wonderful time to be alive when these guys were still here. I'm going to introduce you to the owners of this car and the restorers. It's called the Strother MacMinn LeMans Coupe. Let's meet the two owners and restorers of this vehicle. Dennis Kazmerowski, Kaz you like to be called.
That's correct.
And Chip Fudge. So let's get the official name, the Strother MacMinn LeMans Coupe.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
This was on the cover of Road and Track back in 1960. And it looked like the future then, and it looks like the future now. I mean,
it's amazing that the lines are absolutely timeless. They really are. When you talk about a car, when you go back and you think of a 58 Chevy or a 58 Ford or a Pontiac, you know, to think that this was designed in 1958, it was so far ahead of the time. Strother MacMinn loved the car and loved this design so much, he put it on the cover of his book when he wrote a book. So
now, was this just his envision of a wind tunnel, or is this actually wind tunnel design?
No, this is his idea of what would win Le Mans. Road and Track did a series of articles starting in '57, and in essence they were saying, why aren't Americans winning Le Mans? John Bond, who was the editor and owner of Road and Track, decided that he was going to pen the chassis, and he asked his friend Strother MacMinn to do the body. Well, from the first article to the last article, the chassis changed quite a bit.
Now, Chip, how did you get involved?
Oh, Kaz and I have been friends for a long time, bought and sold a few cars to each other, and he came up with the idea, and I love automotive history, and I'm just nuts about it. And 50s specials are some of the things that I like. And it was hard to resist when I heard the story and found the history of this car.
Well, this really is automotive archaeology. It's literally dug out of the ground. I mean, it wasn't even in a barn. The fact that this would be abandoned in a field, it seems incredible to me, but it shows you just how little old race cars were worth. You know, I always tell the story of my yellow Lamborghini Miura, which I eventually actually got for free because it had a blown engine, and nobody knew anybody in Italy, and you couldn't call the factory. Put a Chevy in it, you know. So it just goes to show you that old stuff is worth a lot of money if you hang on to it long enough. So where was it in Southern California?
It was in Southern California. I was on the phone with a friend of mine, Jeff Hacker, and we were talking, and he said, "What car would you really like to own?" I said, "I'd love to have the LeMans Coupe that was on the cover of Road and Track." He says, "Well, you can't have that one because that was destroyed."
Right.
He says, "But I know where her body is." And he gave me the guy's phone number. I called the gentleman up, a nice guy, and we went back and forth, and it was just a shell, Jay. Just no windows cut out, no doors cut out, no hood cut out, no wheel wells cut out. And when we got it back, I called Chip up and I said, "Why don't you fly out here and take a look at it?" Chip lived in Oklahoma. And we were shocked how, the Southern California sun took its toll on the body, because this body sat outside for 60 years.
Now you say the original was destroyed. Was it dismantled? Was it wrecked?
No, he took it over the Malibu Canyon Hill, and one night lost control of it, and it went down the hill.
Oh, I see.
And broke up into hundreds of pieces and never to be restored.
Wow.
Yeah, back in those days, they didn't have guardrails. They had barbed wire that went across. And what happened was the barbed wire grabbed the two guys in the car and pulled them out. And the car just continued down.
And the original car had what? 283 small block Chevy?
Yes, hooked up to an M21 transmission, or, a T10, something like that.
Tube frame?
I went with the articles that were in Road and Track, and I tried to stay true to it. And it basically, at the end of it, said, keep it simple. Use off-the-shelf things that you can. It's a combination of American engine, gearbox, rear end.
Kind of like a Scarab.
Yeah, kind of like a Scarab.
Right.
It has a MGA rack and pinion to it. It's just it's British, American, Italian, German, and it was stuff that we could just use.
Like a Scarab or an old Yeller.
Right.
It was a 50 special, designed to go 170, 180 miles an hour at Le Mans. And, since Americans had not won at Le Mans since 21, it was put out there for a privateer to build something with off-the-shelf parts to go over and bring the trophy back.
Now, nobody had gone 170 or 180 up to this point. Even the Jaguars were 160, maybe something like that, which seemed like the end of the world. Okay, so before you heard about it from him, did you know about this car?
I did not.
I found the body. I called Chip and said, hey, would you like to partner up on this? Chip lives in Oklahoma. I live in New Jersey. And I put 5 guys together at home, just real car enthusiasts, hot rodders. And they said, let's build it like you would in the 50s. Let's just, hand to mouth and, doing all this stuff ourselves. And they were a great help.
Any idea what the coefficient of drag is on this body?
No, I really don't know. Obviously aerodynamics has changed so much from when Strother did this as compared to where it is today. And I'm sure you would have a aerodynamicist that would say to you, oh, that'll never work, based on what they found out today. But this was so forward thinking to the whole thing with the long tail. At Le Mans, you can see the cars as running a very long tail.
Right.
Very swoopy, as much as they can to keep the airflow is going over the car as best they could.
Well, Chip, let me ask something. When you saw what you bought, were you a little disappointed? Did you think, oh, I was going to?
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all. I knew the vision. We have a piece of automotive history here.
Right.
The irony that a poor boy from Oklahoma City and a poor kid from Jersey could come together and bring back to life a piece of automotive history that was so significant. I was all in immediately.
Because all you got was the some frame, just some fiberglass pieces that was falling apart.
But I know Kaz, and I knew, he knows what he's doing. I knew that it would be right when it was done.
Chip married or single?
Married happily for 35 years.
Really? And oh, wow. And did she? Oh, this is beautiful.
Well,
we don't talk about.
Yeah.
Well, when it was delivered to my house, my wife came out and she looked at it and said, I've supported you in so many things, but you've really lost it this time.
I know.
You really have.
But you had a sucker on the line.
Yeah. She says, what are you going to do with it? And I said, well, I'll call Chip. And it was funny. It worked out well. It really did.
It's so funny because I remember this. I'm one of those guys that has the whole collection of road and tracks. You can't explain to a young person today because when you're a kid in the 60s and 70s, your only exposure to anything was road and track or car and drive.
Exactly.
But you used road and track and you waited for the next issue. And I have certain images in my head of Carroll Shelby standing with the Cobra, the Mustang, and the TT4. Great covers. One of those pictures that stays. Now you've got so much stuff, and then you can look at anything whenever you want. But you actually waited months.
Right. For
the next issue to come.
Yeah.
And when this appeared,
and you would save the magazine.
Right. Oh yeah. I still got them. The ones I bought back in.
Interestingly enough, the cover of this car in Road and Track, as a kid, I was 12 years old, was the first car magazine I ever bought myself.
Oh, is that right?
That's right. And it was
funny.
this car on the cover of Road and Track.
You know, there was a car called, I think, the Phantom Corsair.
Exactly, yeah.
It was built on, I think, based on an Auburn. You can look it up. Has a similar sort of Batmobile look to it. I mean, especially being black now, really, this would be the best looking Batmobile I had ever seen if they had chosen to. And this is really more like what Batman would drive because of the aerodynamics and the swoopiness and all of that. You know.
Well, we had a hard time picking a color for it. Chip said, I'm in, but I don't want a red.
I said, I'm not a red car fan. I said, I'm in, I just don't want it red.
Right.
And this is a black cherry metallic from
a Pontiac, older Pontiac in '55.
Well, it really pops. It really does work.
Well, you know, a friend of mine, Bob Caruso, painted it. He owns nobody knows fiberglass better than a Corvette repair shop.
Right.
You know, and he came to me and said, I'd like to be part of this deal. And he says, I'd like to paint your car. And the reaction to this has just been over the top.
Now, did you have to make up a wooden body, Buck?
No, we actually took the body, I secured it several different spots, across the nose, across here, across the roof, and on the tail. And then we took it and I made a pattern that went across, and then turned it upside down, and more fiberglass in it just to shore up the body.
I see.
Before we even started.
Right.
You know, because it was just so flimsy that I couldn't get it to settle. I would take it and go like this, and the body would go back and forth like that. So we really had to do it. And even in fact, when Chip came out and looked at it, he says, you know, isn't this awfully thin?
And how many decades to get this thing done? How long did it take you?
I've got 3,000 hours in this and 20 months.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 months.
Wow.
But again, with a whole bunch of friends that helped.
Yeah, it's just such a stunning shape. You know, Strother was quite a guy. Was he disappointed that these weren't produced? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
no, I think designers design, and you know, very few designers do a car themselves.
Right.
You know, it's amazing. You know, there are very few Pete Rocks out there that design and do a car themselves. And I think he was happy with his design, and he really threw it out there. He understood what the basis of the articles were and how they wanted to present it, you know, to the general public. And it was something that people took on. 7 bodies were made. 3 are known to exist today. This is the only finished car.
And what was the idea at the time of selling the thing? Was it a kit car?
It was to encourage American privateer racers to build a car off the shelf that they could take to Le Mans and win.
Yeah.
And if there were 20 of them, that would have been better, or even one. But that was the purpose.
You know, it's funny. I really came of age in the 60s. So that seemed like the golden era, but the more I looked, you realize the 50s was really where you had the disc brakes, you had the Jaguars, you had you know, the D-type, the C-type, the Aston Martins, the beautiful Ferraris in the period. There was really such a creative period, because as a kid you always think of GTOs and Mustangs and all that kind of stuff, but the really sophisticated stuff was back then in the 50s.
Well, the original plan with the chassis from John Bond called for, you'll love this, cord inboard brakes in the front. And then at the end, through the articles, at the end he says, just use disc brakes, because Jaguar was coming out with disc brakes and they were becoming popular. And he said, just use disc brakes, but it called for cord inboard brakes. And I just went with the basics. You know, I went with 48-inch track, 88, 90-inch wheelbase, and built it from there.
Yeah.
We wanted to have pieces that would have been from the period, so the car is period correct.
Sure. Can we open the hood?
Sure.
See what the engine looks like. Let's press the button.
Press the button. Lift up on it.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Grab it here. There we go.
Oh, boy, that's nice and clean.
Thank you. You know, I really wanted to, you can see the LeMans Coupe logo there, which has turned out nice.
And this is number 3 out of the 6.
Well, yeah, because there was one that went over the hill that we talked about, and then one was a drag car. Literally, it was called the Witchcraft.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, drag car, and no one knows where that is, so I had to pick a number, so I made it number 3.
So you have a alternator rather than a generator.
Yeah,
Just modern convenience.
Yeah, I just changed some things that would make it easier for everybody
Of course,
involved. And I have, as I said, a friend of mine, Bill Lauricella, he said to me when I started this, Jay, where are you going to build this? And I said, in my 2-car garage behind my house. And he says, no, you're not. He says, I want you to, I'm going to give you a part of my shop with a lift and everything. And I built it there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so kind.
And what does this weigh?
This weighs less than 2,000 pounds.
Really?
Yes, sir. This body's thin.
Boy,
it's most of the weight is engine and transmission.
I mean, it's funny because from this period, fiberglass was fairly new, and especially for like General Motors, they put it on extra thick and extra heavy. It weighed as much as steel. Well, not quite as much, but pretty close, just because they wanted to make sure it had.
Right. But this was done in matte. No, this was done in cloth, not matte. Matte is the woven, and cloth is obviously like a shirt.
Right.
And it was done with 2 layers of cloth, and it was pretty thin.
Let's talk about the engine a minute now. It says Corvette. Is it an early?
Yeah, it's an early Corvette, keeping with the years of the car. It's a 57 Corvette engine. Okay. And I found it, a friend of mine had it and said, hey, why don't you use this? He says, I don't even know if it's going to run. And it turned out to be really, really a nice engine.
Right. Now, is it 4-wheel disc now?
No, it's discs in the front, drums in the back.
Drums in the back, okay, yeah.
Pebble, the car was invited to Pebble Beach, and then we were really under pressure, to get this thing, done. And they allow certain things to be upgraded, like brakes and so on. Sure. And the things I really did change, I put proper disc brakes up front.
I agree 100%. It's just beautifully done.
And I put a proper fuel tank in it because I didn't want 2 sandwich pieces of metal, as a fuel tank. I wanted a proper fuel tank.
And in 20 months, that's the incredible part.
Well, I haven't seen my wife much.
And what did you say, MGA steering box?
Yeah, MGA rack and pinion. It's TR3 basically front suspension. Yeah. And it all worked. It really did. I had pieces here, pieces there, and
you had to put the scallops on. This is sort of Corvette reminiscent of.
Absolutely, yeah. What happened was, I was very disappointed when I got the body because I knew it was missing, but I thought maybe that part of it would be there for me to trace and go over. Somebody in 60 years decided to take the scallops off the side, and I couldn't build this car with these missing. I mean, this is such an integral part of it.
Now, was it in a field behind a guy's house who was a car enthusiast? I mean, just so odd to me.
It kicked around Southern California. The gentleman who owned it was really a Bonneville kind of guy, Doug Adler, a very nice gentleman. And he had plans to take it to Bonneville. Yeah. And I hung up the phone with him one night talking to him, and while we were still talking about trying to buy the car or buy the body. And I turned to my wife and I said, we got to try to save this thing. I don't want it to be chopped up and cut up with a big wing and a spoiler in the front and so on. And we finally came to an agreement. And
it's funny, you mentioned the Bonneville guys. When I first got this garage, a little bit earlier, I met some guys from the 200-mile-an-hour club. Mm-hmm. There were 5 guys in it. Now there's anybody with a Corvette is in it now. But it seemed to have that patch. It's
like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
I mean, it just seems so exotic,
Now they try to keep you below that, so you go in stages. Right. So you can't go over 160, for the first time you run, and then you work your way up. Right. So they try to do it in stages.
Now, is there any desire to try and get this to see if it will hit 170, 180?
No. Chip and I both race, and we're a little brighter than that.
With the way the front end is.
Well, I just felt like I had to ask. Well, it just makes such a visual statement. I mean, at first it seems over the top, and then you go, well, not really. And then you just see so much European influence here in the back.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, it really, because it's hard for people. America was really isolated in those days. and so we had American things and there was European things, and rarely did the two ever intersect, you know.
Well, and trying to compare this to a 57 or 58 Chevrolet
Right.
Pontiac at the time, this is so much more European design inspired than the American cars of the period.
I know, it's interesting because when you realize this is 1958, most of the guys that were racing were born in the 1800s.
Right.
I mean, when I was a little kid,
Yeah.
anybody over 60 was born in the 1800s, you know? I mean, John F. Kennedy was the first president born in the 20th century.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Eisenhower was the 18th, everybody, you know, so you realize how much time passes and where this fits in. And when you realize that the average American car was probably, the roof line was probably right here.
Yes.
Some even up here,
Yes.
you know, Packards and big Cadillacs.
Right.
And the fenders would have been here.
Yeah, this would, seeing this coming down the street, it's like seeing a Lamborghini Miura in the 60s when you, a big, and it's below the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, if I took this and put it up next to an 18-wheeler, I'd be looking at the top of the tire.
No, is this higher than 40 inches, you think?
No, it comes out to 39 and a half.
Okay, about
Straight
the
across.
Same as a Ford GT?
Yeah, yeah. I laid a 2x4 across the top and measured from the outside here, and it comes to 39 and a half.
Well, that was the great thing about Strother, you know. I always tell people, draw me a car, and it doesn't even look like a car. He just had that, you get that curve perfectly, you know?
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. He could
Yeah.
draw a circle.
Well, you know, when Strother was not feeling well, his students gave him, and I'll give you a picture of it, gave him a get well card. And they took this car and made it a 4-door, and they put the Cadillac taillights on it.
Oh,
it
that's
had
funny.
raccoon tails on it as a joke, and they all signed it and sent it to him.
That's funny.
But his students knew how much he loved this design,
Yeah,
and he considered it truly his best.
Well, and there was also a yacht, a motor yacht.
Yeah, today someone's making a yacht
designed
to
after
shape.
this car. With this
Is that
shape.
right?
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the rear, the way it tapers.
It's not a cam effect. You know, a cam effect would be straight across.
Gotcha.
You know,
Like Pete Brock would have cut it right here. Right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
a little.
Yeah.
when we were at Eyes on Design with this car in primer, Pete loved it. He really thought we were doing a great job.
Well, Jessica, can we take it for a ride?
Really? No, I'm only joking. It only has 7 miles on it.
Well, we'll just go around the block.
I know. I'm
Well,
only
hey,
joking.
let's put the hood back on. Chip, we're gonna go. Can you wait here for us?
I will.
Oh, thank you very much. If we had 3 seats, I'd take it.
Enjoy.
That's how one goes about this.
Take care of our baby.
No different than a McLaren. Like, it's easier than the McLaren. Look at that. Fall right into it.
Jay, you got a racing body.
Okay.
Well, you're halfway there. There you go.
And the
I'll say, and then you lock it on here.
Giving it.
Well, I like looking through that windshield and seeing those haunches. Well, it feels great.
Got a serious sound.
Well, less than 2,000 pounds, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I know it's probably my imagination, but when I get off throttle, I seem to freewheel a lot easier. I mean, we're not at any speed, we're aerodynamics.
Right.
But at least in my mind, I think, oh, okay.
You know, for a car with 7 miles on it.
Driving position is very good.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's really comfortable.
oh, yeah.
You know, Jay, when you restore a car, you take the part off,
Right.
you fix it, you paint it, you put it back where it belongs. When you build a car, you got to decide where everything goes.
Right.
You know, and there's really quite a difference.
I mean, look, even people who don't know. Everybody gives you the thumbs up.
Yeah. You know, with this 283 and the smaller pipes, you get that real rasp sound to it.
Well, it feels very contemporary.
Yeah. You know, when you build something, you wonder, okay, I'm taking it out for its initial trip, and sometimes you're disappointed, sometimes you're pleasantly surprised.
Well, I would not be disappointed. I am pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, me too. That makes two of us.
I don't get the feeling everything's moving around, you know?
No, it's incredibly solid. When the car was at Pebble, some woman came to me and said, well, you don't have any turn signals. And I said, yeah, I do. There's one left and there's right. And
you know, I feel like I can drive this thing all day. It's very comfortable.
yeah,
It's got the right sound. It just has the right amount of horsepower and torque. You get a nice pull when you're in second gear. Well, it's funny because the real enemy of any of these kind of cars is weight.
Yeah.
And you know, if you told me this was 3,500 pounds, I would have gone, yeah, well, that's about right.
Right.
Big cast iron
Yeah.
V8. The fact that you're less than 2,000 pounds, that's unbelievable. I mean, it's true to the whole idea of what it was supposed to be.
it's supposed to be.
Which is what I like, as opposed to.
I think when they were talking about it originally, when you read the articles, they were talking about 2,100, 2,175.
Right,
something
right.
like that.
Well, depending on how much fuel
Yeah,
you got,
yeah.
you know, 8 pounds a
But-
gallon and all that.
Runs cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. You know.
I mean, I've got that Cunningham, and I love that thing. That's, you know, it's got a 331 in it, and it's all original except instead of the 2-speed semi-automatic, it's got a Tremec. Well, it's a real piece of history. And you've really done a wonderful job preserving
Thanks,
it.
Jay. Thank you very much.
Just wonderful. It's just and it looks like a labor of love. You know, you got a beloved educator and teacher like Strother. And but even when you see pictures in a magazine, it isn't as overwhelming as when you see it in person, you know.
Well, you know, the prelim to the live stream at Pebble, Tommy Kendall talked about this car.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Oh, he is.
There were so many cars from that era, the Bosley.
Oh, I love the Bosley.
Isn't there a Kellison? Isn't that one?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But Kellison was a kid car, and the Bosley's a one-off like this.
Right.
You know, the Bosley has always been one of my favorite cars. It's just beautiful.
I mean, it feels as solid as a 58 or 60 Corvette.
Yeah.
Which I hope it's not an insult, but yeah.
No, no, not at all. Not one bit.
No, it's stunned how nice it is. Because I've driven a lot of prototype vehicles. And some are okay and some are awful. This is very, very good. This may be the longest drive it's been on.
It is. I might just drive this home to New Jersey.
I know it. Well, Dennis, thank you very much, my friend. This is
You know,
really,
Jay, thank you.
really been a treat.
This is
Thank you.
This is a real honor for me to have this.
Well, it's
at your
just so
shop,
nice
you know,
to see.
I love the stuff that you do, and
Well,
you
so
know,
many people do stuff for the prizes and the money. You do it for the love of the game, and,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it. That's what really keeps the hobby going. You know?
yeah, it truly does. You know, out at Pebble, I had a family from Ohio come by, and they just they saved their money to come see this car.
That's funny.
Isn't that something?
I know. Well, this is exactly what Strother would have wanted. He was
Yeah.
an educator
Yeah.
for young people to see it and understand what was this was going on 60 years ago.
You know, it could be a concept car today.
I know.
You know, with all the electric cars they have out there, this would fall right in line.
I mean, it doesn't crash over bumps. I mean, it's really very nice. Well, I hope you guys watch on YouTube. I hope you enjoy this
I'm
fascinating piece of history.
I'm
It
sure
really,
it will, and you know, it's this is so exciting for us.
yeah.
Very exciting. You
Jim
know,
and Dennis have just done an amazing job.
thanks, Jack.
And
Thank you so much.
this is the fun part, finding out
Yeah,
some of this automotive archaeology, things you didn't think existed,
yeah. you
bringing
know,
them back to life.
Yeah. You know, I can't thank
Oh,
you know the guy that put me in line with the body, Jeff Hacker. You know, he literally turned to me and said, "You'll never own another car in your life as important as this one." And I think he was right.
I know, yeah. And the fun thing about that is, regardless of cost,
Yeah, yeah.
because this one is not about the money, it's about
No.
the history, about a legendary guy. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed it. See you guys next week.